Hey, it's Alex, and we're taking another step back into the past to play the shitty games that suck ass. No, not that far, because today we're getting wild and westy with it. It's the mid-2000s, and there are two Western games on the market, Gun and Red Dead Revolver. And since I've always been a ROCKSTAR stan, is that what the kids say nowadays? Ah shit, I'm old. And since I've always been a ROCKSTAR super fan, well, more of an apologist now, you know damn well I picked Red Dead Revolver. Expecting Grand Theft Auto with horses, instead I got something unexpected. A gritty spaghetti western so outlandishly memorable, I still have my original copy. Which doesn't work past the Betsy mission, so it's more for sentimental value than anything else. I played this during my most formative years, so Red Dead Revolver truly holds a special place in my heart.
Whoa, you've got Red Dead Revolver. That one's rated.
And because of that, I wanted to take a look back and see what made it so special, and if it even still holds up today. Reach for the star. The ROCKSTAR. Before there was ROCKSTAR's Red Dead Revolver, there was this. Capcom's Red Dead Revolver, a Japanese-styled arcade shooter set to the tune of an over-the-top spaghetti western. It was a noble concept which began development in the year 2000, when then Capcom's chief operating officer, Yoshiki Okamoto, started working on a cowboy-themed shooter by the name of SWAT, which stood for a Spaghetti Western Action Team. Not the best name, which will be a running theme with this game. Okamoto, who was a big fan of spaghetti westerns like The Blind Man and pretty much every other classic, had previously worked on Gunsmoke, a top-down shooter set in the West. He was a huge advocate for the setting, defending its existence by pointing out the lack of westerns at the time. And being a big fan himself meant Okamoto wanted to get the setting right, so he outsourced the development to Angel Studios, a small California-based development team that they had previously hired to port Resident Evil 2 on the N64. Okamoto figured that the best way to make a cowboy game was from the source, so Angel Studios began development on SWAT for about a year until they ran into some trouble. Trouble that can mostly be attributed to cultural differences.
Are you supposed to slide those doors open?
You see, Capcom had sent some of their own people to oversee the project, people like Akira Yasuda, who designed the character of Chun-Li, which thank you for that. But under his direction, the game took a more over-the-top fantasy style, which went against the whole Western vibe. Being based in San Diego, Angel Studios knew exactly what a typical Western looked like. But considering they were just a small company with little to say on the finished product, meant a lot of their input was unheard, misunderstood, or outright ignored. Even the name Red Dead Revolver was a result of the Japanese intervention, which Angel Studios tried to make sense of by incorporating Red as the main character's name. We try to put stuff in the game to make the name make more sense, like naming the character Red and having his hand get burned so his hand was red. Not very subtle, but I appreciate them trying to make things fit. And after 2 years of butting heads, Capcom revealed Red Dead Revolver, a confused arcade-like shooter with a bizarrely exaggerated Wild West setting. The game itself didn't look too bad. In fact, I kinda really dig it. But unfortunately, behind the scenes, it was completely unplayable. Capcom's indecisiveness meant whole sections of the game were being scrapped or reinvented, leaving it a chopped up mess. Ultimately, they canceled the version of the game in early 2003, after an ever-expanding ROCKSTAR had acquired Angel Studios, which would only complicate the already rocky development. I do want to point out, Angel Studios was never in any financial trouble or anything of that sort. In fact, they were doing really well for themselves, with other studios like Microsoft and Activision interested in acquiring them. But after working with ROCKSTAR on their Midnight Club Racing series, Angel Studios realized that the creative freedom ROCKSTAR allowed was exactly what they needed to make the games they wanted. And so, Angel Studios was rebranded to ROCKSTAR San Diego, and development for Red Dead started up again, this time under ROCKSTAR's guiding light. The combination between ROCKSTAR's more mature themes and Capcom's stylized arcadey design made for an extremely memorable spaghetti western that accidentally covers all the cliches, with its vignette style of storytelling, which has you jumping from one set piece to another. It's totally a remnant of Capcom's chaotic development period, but in the end, the game is better for it. And if you want to know more, I really recommend you give the Polygon article a read. It's what this segment is based off, and it's got a lot of juicy details that I didn't really touch on. But without further ado, let's jump right into the story of who killed my pa, or how I got lumbago. Pretty good, right? It's referential and everything. Red Dead Revolver starts like a lot of games in the 2000s, with a prologue that has you stepping into the shoes of one young and disproportionately large-headed Red Harlow.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the... No.
As our pa makes it back to the homestead with some good news. Here's a brokeback mounting it have finally paid off, as he and his partner have struck gold down in Mexico, making us stinking rich.
We hit a vein of gold as wide as a locomotive that runs clean through Bear Mountain.
Unfortunately for Red, the Wild West economy is a bitch, so we immediately get raided by a bunch of Mexicans led by a very tall white man wearing a Mexican uniform. It's gonna matter later on, I swear. We try to fend them off, but this being a Western means our parents are immediately deaded by a revolver.
Oh, Pa! 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 Get up, Pa! Pa! Pa!
Kid, I reckon your pa's better off dead. Him being such a yellow belly and all.
So, the best we can do is an arm for a hand, giving us the red part of the name, along with a chance to escape. Left orphaned and broke, we find new conviction and revenge, setting us off on our Red Dead journey. And as far as prologues go, I'm a big fan. There's nothing more Western than the quiet bounty hunter looking for, well, revenge. And the best part, it's all set up within a minute, so it's short, sweet, and gets right into the meat of the story. Which, sure, it's a cliche, but honestly, that's exactly what I want from a game set in the West. Still, yeah, Chapter 1 is pretty much your introduction to the basic shooting and movement, which as far as third-person shooters go, the controls feel really good. This probably has a lot to do with how generous the bullet tracking can be, but that's none of my business. Now, I'll be honest, I had totally forgotten about the ungodly amount of tutorials this game has, which the first 3 missions are just that. They do have some light bounty hunting and boss fights to keep things interesting, but they're mostly there to introduce us to the game world and the more obscure mechanics, with the second and third chapter going deeper into our bounty hunting abilities. Chapter 2 specifically has us bounty hunting at Twin Rocks, where we learn about the cover mechanic, something that I never found useful aside from some very specific instances and would quickly forget. But on the other hand, we also debut our Deadeye ability, which we'll pretty much be using in just about every mission. And Deadeye, for those who don't know, is just Western talk for bullet time with extra steps.
That was easy.
It's a real blast from the past that feels a lot more rewarding than it has any right being. Chapter 3 has us go John Wick after a local gang kills a random dog.
Damn, Barman!
Yeah, that's it.
Which I can only assume was our dog, since he was following us the moment the flashback ended. Which, if that's the case, well, that's just sad. This sets us off on a killing spree, leading to a more overlooked mechanic, but arguably just as important as Deadeye. It's the dueling mechanic, which I love now, but outright despised the first time I played this. I say this thinking back when I was an impatient little rat and would skip all the tutorials, meaning I had no clue how to duel. Which, it's not too hard to master, but skipping those tutorials is literally a death sentence since there's more than a few duels scattered throughout the game, with a whole ass tournament taking place towards the third act. So, not knowing how to duel is a quick way to end up dead.
This should be cakewalk.
And to quickly explain how it works, you pretty much have to pull down on the right analog, specifically when your hand is hovering over the gun. You then follow it up with a quick push up, which lets you place your shots. Yellow means low damage, with red reticles giving criticals. It's not very intuitive, but also not too outlandish as far as controls go. And lastly, we have the bounty system. It serves both as a currency and point system, with money being awarded for each bounty killed. And I gotta say, this lends itself well to that heavy arcade style that keeps you engaged as you're constantly unlocking new things with the money you earn. You even get a little summary scoreboard at the end, breaking things down, along with these little bounty posters showing who you killed, which are just the cherry on top of that bounty hunter themed sundae. But I digress, because after killing half the population of the 1800s America, we still have bounties that need turning in. Chapter 4 is the first time we're really let loose. There's no more tutorials, and it really serves as your first real challenge in the game. Now, this is your stereotypical train robbery, which has us clearing out the train as we make our way towards the conductor, who we have to defend for around 3 minutes to make it into town. It's not a difficult mission, but it does test you on the basics, which can be hard if you skip them, like I did as a kid. Which, speaking of, this chapter has platforming elements that totally gave Kid Me a run for my money. Not that I had any, but this time it was no different.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh no!
The next chapter has us reach Brimstone, and rather than a traditional mission, we're greeted with an actual town.
You the bounty hunter? Sheriff Bartlett. I got your telegram.
Brimstone is a monument to innovation and civilization, so much so that my emulator was seeing doubles.
Okay, yeah, I need to fix this. This is trash.
Okay, in reality, it's pretty barren, but the main street more than makes up for it by housing all the shops. There's a general store, a tailor, and a gun shop, which sell the usual guns, journal pages, and showdown characters, the three commodities of the land. I wish the shops sold more consumable type items, but you learn to appreciate the journal pages, if anything. Now, the real reason we're here is for the bounties, so we make our way to the sheriff's, who serves as our plot progression by giving us 3 bounties to collect, slapping us on the butt, and sending us on our way. Now, don't worry about missing out on the town, since ultimately Brimstone becomes the hub world, which will have you coming back every few missions or so, with the shops and characters actually changing and updating, implementing some of that juicy world reactivity, which, for a 2000s game, is some real immersive shit.
Governor announces 6th annual battle royale.
Back to the hunt. Chapter 6 sees Red hunting down a gang of carnies led by one Pig Josh. And I preface this by saying, this is one of my favorite missions in the game. At least it's definitely one of the first that comes to mind whenever someone brings up Red Dead Revolver. And I love it. It's managed to worm its way into my little cold heart. This chapter has us make our way to the fairgrounds where we stumble into Jack Swift, a sharpshooter from London locked in a cage.
I seem to have found myself in a most unfortunate situation.
Our meeting is cut short as we're ambushed by a posse full of clowns, which we tear through like it's Clown Pussy in 2023. Freeing Jack in the process. This obviously gets Pig Josh's attention, who's not necessarily the leader, but definitely a big boss. And he's a lot tougher than I remember, with Pig Josh being an explosive tank who can't take any real damage unless you catch him off guard. He also packs a punch, which sends you rolling into a 15-second long animation, so you really want to avoid that. The fight is pretty much a cat and mouse game, which has you sneaking and stunning him for some big damage. It's a little gimmicky, but it's part of that Capcom charm, with its over-designed characters and arcadey elements that lend themselves so well to this gritty ROCKSTAR style of storytelling. We eventually pull away of my some men on Josh.
Just look at the rabbits!
Adding another bounty to the pile, and a potential friend in Jack Swift. But rather than hitting Brimstone for a quick rest, the next chapter has us change perspective to our newly freed British brother. This is the first of many perspective flips. They all usually last one mission long and serve as an intermission with its own little arc that usually ties back to the bigger plot. They definitely become more common in the second act, happening after every 2 Red-centric chapters, which overall keeps things fresh and exciting by breaking up the more repetitive parts of the gameplay. The best thing about switching is that each character has a special ability, substituting Red Eye. For Jack, it's the ability to unload 12 rounds in 1 second. He's a quick shot. The whole switching mechanic are definitely another remnant from Capcom and Angel Studios' development time, who planned on having a bunch of playable characters, each with a unique theme and abilities. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because Jack's whole thing is finishing off loose ends in the form of a circus crew which previously employed him. After his former bosses died, a mad oil salesman took over the circus, so we're getting our revenge. And that means taking out one Professor Perry, who is probably as outlandish as it gets when it comes to the over-the-top arcade-esque design boss fights.
My boys will keep you busy.
I'm a clown pussy. I can't do it. I can't do it no more. I'm drowning. Help! He's a teleporting mad scientist type with a green potion and all. Like I said, he's supposed to be a snake oil salesman, but that's definitely not the vibe. But despite the oddities, playing as a sharpshooter with super accurate dual revolvers is really fun and super empowering. Not to mention, the nighttime setting really sells the whole creepy circus freak vibe that I'm sure they were going for. Ultimately, Perry nor the circus crew stood a chance against our 12 irons, so we fill him full of lead, putting an end to Jack's career as a circus spectacle.
He's on the roof of the blacksmith.
Not for long. Motherfucker's down. I really like Jack's whole shtick, not because he's a total Sigma, turning down puss for a chance at some big cash.
You saved my life.
All in a day's work. I only wish it were more financially gratifying.
No, wait, that's exactly why I like him so much. Yeah, Jack is a total Sigma, just trying to make some big bucks. And with the brimstone dueling competition happening in a few days, well, you know where he's headed.
There's a sharpshooter competition in Brimstone. Winner takes all.
That being said, there's no way this can possibly connect back to the main story, right? Well, yeah, Red Dead Revolver does these cutaway chapters really well by always having them tie into the bigger story, with each one having a western payoff in one way or another. But back in Brimstone, and after completing those 2 missions, we'll find Jack making the rounds while he waits for the tournament. There's also some more world reactivity in the form of the newsboy yelling out Pig Josh is dead, and some NPCs giving out new lines about our next bounty, which is exactly what we're there for. So, it's back to business with Red as we collect them at Betsy. Gives me more trouble than I expected, since she has a whole simp entourage which always comes in to save the day. There was duels and fools, but despite some close encounters of the kinky kind, I was able to wrangle in Bad Betsy, who didn't come quietly. Oh! No! Oh my god. Get up, Red. This is the mission that always breaks my Xbox disc, so it was finally nice to finish things off after blue balling it for the past 10 years.
Hate to kill a lady.
Moving on to the next bounty, Mr. Black, a steampunk Edgar Allan Poe wannabe who's a little too old to be dressing up like a Hot Topic teenager, and checks off the ghost town / cemetery setting. And sticking to the theme, you end up fighting him in a cemetery, where he uses some goth machine gun casket, which sounds exciting, but for some reason, it never was. It's never felt like a memorable fight. Well, until now when he pulled a Houdini and straight up disappeared. What the fuck? Not that it matters, because we always get our man one way or another. You fucking hacker. Back at the sheriff's, we're given some bureaucratic bullshit about the bank not having enough money to pay us off, which has us storming right over there as soon as I figure out where it was. Wow, I'm gonna have to go look at the footage because I don't know where the hell to go. Yeah, for some reason, this is definitely at least the 3rd time where I played this game and I had no idea where the hell the bank was. Inside, we overhear an argument between one Annie and the bank. With her farm getting foreclosed and the government behind it, well, the bank just isn't budging.
Why not just sell up to the governor? You could always move into town and work in the saloon.
The saloon! How dare you!
We managed to hear something about gold in Bear Mountain, which, if you forgot, is the same place where Dad found that gold all those years back. Coincidence? I think not.
To hell with that evil son of a bitch! He's mined enough gold out of Bear Mountain! What the hell does he want in my damn ranch?
Ma'am.
Leading us to Chapter 11, which has to switch over to Annie as she deals with her homestead being raided.
Sorry, Annie, but the governor made us a better offer. Good luck, Sam.
And again, you'd think switching characters every few missions would kill the pacing, but they always manage to make playing the character feel unique and exciting. Trying out new guns and testing out their abilities always had me wanting more. Annie has a kick-ass rocket rifle, which feels way too fun to use, even if there aren't too many opportunities to use it. This mission, while short, has always stood out to me. Not because we get to ride a cow, which is a first, but instead for its kick-ass soundtrack, which perfectly underlines not just this chapter, but the whole game. Still, it goes deeper than that, because while doing some research, I found out that the game's soundtrack was fully composed of licensed tracks, all taken from famous spaghetti westerns. And Rockstar San Diego really picked the best of the best, so you know the game is filled with certified western classics that will make your geese bump. That being said, it's all copywritten, so we won't be hearing any of it in this video.
Stop it. Get some help.
But I do highly suggest you listen to this. And I swear, it sounds just like a Star Wars piece. Tangent aside, this chapter starts the second act of the game, which sees us leaving bounty hunting and getting more involved, finding the people responsible for killing our paw.
Tell me about the gold mine in Bear Mountain.
Making the next set of chapters some of my favorites. We'll also be switching characters every 2 missions now, and totally ditching Brimstone, at least until the tournament, making for some fast-paced, multi-perspective storytelling that ultimately culminates in some pretty good payoffs. Chapter 12 has us back in Brimstone, but not in the way you expected. We find ourselves at the local saloon, where we overhear someone talking about a one-armed man making the rounds.
Only a cannon could replace that man's arm.
How'd he lose his arm?
This sets us off,
You and my paw.
which in turn starts the most emasculating bar fight in human history. I'm not saying that because they just manhandled me like I was nothing, but they did manhandle me like it was nothing.
Over with.
Dude, I do not like being manhandled. I do not enjoy it. But instead, it's mostly due to the controls. The grabbing and hand-to-hand all feel really awkward and dumb, which wouldn't be a problem if it were a minute-long sequence.
Oh, there you go. Finally.
Except, it's at least a 7-minute ordeal. So, this chapter is the one exception to what I said about the next set being my favorites. This also gets another common gripe that I kept reading from critics. Red Dead Revolver tries to do way too many things, which are never fleshed out before eventually moving on to the next. And this chapter is definitely a prime example of just that, hindering the game, since the saloon fight is in no way fun and drags out way too long to make it forgettable enough to forgive. I can think of a few more mechanics which are pretty underbaked, like the platforming and horse riding, and maybe even stealth. No, definitely stealth. But I still see this as something that makes the game special. Especially now where games are standardized to the 3rd degree, with even giants like Grand Theft Auto being made into nothing more than microtransactional cash cows. So it's nice to see just how unique the 2000s were. But I digress. We finish things by dealing with Yosemite Sam, who gets put down relatively easy. He is a little gimmicky, but I kinda dug it. Unfortunately for us, this gets us absolutely nothing but thrown in jail. We did kind of escalate things, and we did kind of murder everybody. So yeah, I get it. But here's the kicker. Things have a funny way of working out, as the sheriff recognizes us as Nate's kid. That's our paw.
I'd heard rumors you were alive, but never believed it. You're Nate Harlow's son, Red.
Tell me what you know about the death of my family.
Which sets us off to a flashback mission down in Mexico, where we take the role of Diego, a general for the Mexican army, during some battle at the border. He keeps some interesting company, which makes you wonder how deep this whole thing goes.
You're not planning to take on the entire Yankee army.
You don't expect me to answer a stupid question like that. Prepare the artillery!
Now, this mission is split into 2 objectives. and was just as hard as I remembered. Mostly with the first part, which has us destroying 6 cannons with our special ability. That pretty much commandeers cannons of our own. Landing the shots isn't tough in itself, but the American execution squad they send really does a number. We finish things off by blowing up the bridge and taking control over the border, which is the whole reason for this flashback, if you forgot. It's also a neat little reference to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where Clint Eastwood almost got killed. Apparently, while Nate was making his way back to the homestead, his partner Griffin was captured by Diego and outright sells him out, ultimately leading to the events of the prologue.
I only own half the claim. My partner Nate owns the other half.
And what if I kill your partner?
Then that would make us partners.
Partner.
The sheriff, now sympathetic to our cause, lets us go, with the promise that we'll take down Diego ourselves. So with Diego and Griff added to the list, we make our way south of the border, where we immediately start a fight with the Mexican army in hopes of flushing out Diego. And it works a little too well as we're confronted by a machine gun wielding cart. Fortunately, we get a horsey for the second time, which makes things easier. Unfortunately for Red, he's a little stupid and doesn't see the mountain-sized gringo sneaking up. What the hell? So we're kidnapped by a bunch of Mexicans, which they try to break from the stereotype by having the white guy do the kidnapping, but I think the message still stands. But luck's on our side when our native cousin, yes, we're half native, don't forget about our mom, sees the kidnapping, which sets off chapter, I forgot to write it. This chapter has us playing as Shadow Wolf, which is the most white Indian name I've ever heard. But hey, it was the 2000s. Overall, it's a really fun and memorable mission.
Wow,
we get a bow and arrow, which really made things feel stealthy, even if stealth didn't always work out.
What the fuck? The white devil plays tricks on our mind.
But our ability to shoot a fire arrow more than made up for it. Definitely the Western equivalent of napalm. We finished things off with a boss fight against a bear, in the least literal sense of the word. And this was definitely the second weirdest boss. He's no teleporting parry, but definitely a whole vibe on its own.
There's like 100 fucking arrows on him.
Nevertheless, we make it into Bear Mountain, where we free Red.
Cousin Red? Shadow Wolf? I knew I'd find you.
And an American soldier who goes off to fetch the cavalry.
I'll have the cavalry here in no time. Go fast, soldier.
The following 2 missions have us escaping Bear Mountain with nothing but the clothes on our back. I think you're meant to stealth, but again, it's never worked for me.
Ay, cabrón!
So you know I went on a whole shootout, which has us facing the whole Mexican army one more time. Not to mention, we have to collect 3 keys to open an exit. Yeah, it's a whole ordeal, and I'm not the biggest fan. The 3v1 duel fight at the end was a good finisher, but the follow-up boss fight with the self-immolating brothers was definitely the cherry on top. But I could still do without the caves. Our escape is bookended by a 2-part rail shooter, which has Buffalo Soldier make his way through Mexico and sub-native territory. He's the last character we switched to and has the same explosive rifle as Annie, but amped up to 11.
Oh, you're a good dog. I think I was safer in that cell.
I guess it's supposed to be an explosive send-off, so there's not much to do but blow up the minorities and enjoy the ride. I can't believe I wrote that. I think it's okay because we're black. I also wrote that. But I digress. because Buffalo Soldier makes it to Brimstone, where he tries to warn the governor.
Who let you in here, soldier?
But the conspiracy of who killed our pa runs deeper than we ever realized, as it's revealed that the governor is in cahoots with Diego.
Mr. Diego is one of my biggest contributors. I'm sure this is all a simple misunderstanding.
Huh?
Leaving Buffalo Soldier captured yet again.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Back down south, Red and Nightwolf are storming a fort where we have to clear out more of the Mexican army.
Fuck.
Before confronting the one-armed man, the very same who killed our pa.
Leave him alone.
Revenge shall be mine!
What do you mean?
I'm gonna...
The fight itself isn't hard, especially with the lion double barrel, which helps us put him down like the dog he is.
Howdy, Hunter.
Yeah, fuck off.
It was getting to the boss fight that really put me through the ringer. At this point, the horde of enemies are a lot harder to deal with than a one-on-one boss fight, but I'm still enjoying the difficulty spike. In the end, Nightwolf pays for a victory with his life,
Cousin, no!
adding fuel to the fire.
Our people now shall know of your courage, cousin.
So we set off for one more chapter down south as we make our way towards Diego, who's hiding away in his moving fortress, a heavily armored train equipped with cannons and Gatling guns. It's as bombastic as you think, which makes boarding and dismantling piece by piece that much more rewarding.
Ow! Fuck! Hurt. Bye, you bastard.
We even get help from some mysterious stranger who just happens to be hauling a Gatling gun across the tracks. I can't say I mind, because I was just having a good time taking out the train, which we're able to stop dead in its track by blowing up the engine.
I got it. Alright.
Unfortunately, this doesn't bring out Diego, who instead sends out his troops who rail on you while he shoots you from inside. Only after dealing enough damage, which a stick of dynamite definitely does, will Diego stop cowering and leave the train.
Got it in?
Yes! Giving us a shot at our reversal, which doesn't last too long, but definitely felt good.
Get some balls, get some balls.
Oh, wow! We follow up with a double barrel, giving him that old pump and dump, leaving him with just enough life to beg for mercy.
I'm dying!
And I love this mission. It serves as the perfect payoff to the second act, which not only did it set up Diego as a new villain, but we also get to take him down. And it all felt really personal, with his overall story implementation feeling natural and important. Not to mention the bombastic last two chapters. Definitely a good end to a great second act. But after a long day in Mexico, we make our way back home, to the Brimstone hub world that is. This is where we'll find Jack and Annie getting ready for the battle royale, along with the rest of the town, which is booming for the first time. So we join in on some 2004's world reactivity. Now, this is the last time we're going to be in Brimstone, which makes it the best time to check the shops. More specifically, the gun shop, which will offer the Widowmaker and a new rifle, which does some of the highest damage in the game. So those will definitely come in handy during the competition. To join the battle royale, we have to pay one last visit to the sheriff, who sets things in motion.
You want to enter the battle royale too?
Yeah.
The competition lasts 2 chapters long, and starts with the preliminaries, which has us face my dad.
Bro, he looks just like my dad. That's crazy.
It's not even a joke. That's actually what he looks like. Followed by a femboy twink who gets one right between the eyes.
Oh, he ain't so pretty no more. That's for sure.
This ends the first day, which has Jack, Kelly, and Annie making it into the finals as well. Is that allowed? A rifle?
I guess so.
We get a quick break at the saloon, or we can buy one last upgrade to our Deadeye, which I didn't have enough money for. And I'm pretty sure I've never had enough money for. I always spend it on the guns, and by the time I remember this upgrade, it's already too late. The second day, unfortunately, doesn't go as planned when the governor makes a real-life appearance, taking over the event.
I'm going to be stepping in to oversee this conclusion to the battle royale.
He expedites the competition by disqualifying Annie and Jack, making us next to face Kelly. Now, I always found this to be a cheap way to get us out of having a competition against Annie and Jack, but I get it, because we definitely would have had to kill them if we kept going in the competition, so this is definitely the best case scenario. But I digress, because this is where the real duel begins. Kelly is the fastest gun in the South, and you definitely feel it. I was able to get him in my first try, but not without taking a bullet ourselves.
Oh, you got a shot in.
Granted, when I was replaying the mission, I ended up dying at least 7 times before I could finally kill him. But, of course, the game was rigged from the start, as the governor pulls out our father's Scorpion revolver, revealing him to be none other than Griffin, the man who sold out our pa to the Mexican army.
We're gonna have to end right here and now, what we should have ended so many years ago.
Isn't she a beaut?
Yeah! Can I hold it?
She's one of a pair, only 2 in the whole world.
Where's the other one? The other one.
That's some real berserk shit. Governor Griffin sets an injured Kelly loose on the town, which starts a great boss fight against Kelly, who not only goes for you, but the town folks as well.
The hunter
Get out of the way! It doesn't help that they're programmed to run in front of you, so you'll definitely be taking out a few of them yourself if you're not careful.
Oh my god, Granny, get out of the way.
This was my second favorite fight, which was definitely due to the setting. Going from hub world to arena feels exciting and subverts that whole safe zone idea. Not to mention, you kind of feel a connection to the place, along with the townsfolk.
Sorry.
Who would have thought having you come back after every few missions makes things meaningful? In the end, we use our new high caliber rifle to put Kelly down. Leaving Red, Jack, and Annie itching for some retribution and setting up our final act.
Tell me where to find him.
His mansion, but it's secured like a fortress. It'll be hard even for a bounty hunter like you.
He will not be alone.
He ain't the only one who wants the governor. I reckon that their prize money is in that mansion of his.
I reckon it is. Yow! This chapter has us infiltrate the governor's mansion through a head-on assault, which goes as well as you'd expect. It's a total shootout that has us facing off against all of the governor's men, who are mini bosses in themselves. It starts off slow, having us deal with a rifleman, who we easily take out using some TNT. Followed by Roundabout Randy, who gets a similar treatment. It's tense, but it's nothing compared to the following section, which has you defending Jack while he lockpicks the front door.
The only thing left in my bag of tricks is to pick the damn lock on the front door. Think you two can keep me from getting shot in the back while I do it?
Nope.
Only one way to find out. I'll cover you from up here with my rifle.
I just got a PTSD flashback. This is gonna suck.
It lasts 3 minutes, but it feels like an eternity with the amount of enemies they throw your way. Come on. Dude. It's hard enough having to deal with 10 mini-bosses in a row, which, yes, there's 10 of them, but you also have to keep an eye out for both Annie and Jack, who love dying right towards the end.
Guys, no! Annie, what the fuck? Are you serious?
Thankfully this time, it only took me a few tries and not a few weeks, like when I was a kid. So we ultimately finish off the governor's men with a few seconds to spare and make our way inside. This next chapter is split into 2 sections, giving us an opportunity to spend quality time with both our friends. The first part has you clearing out the first floor with Jack in hand. Who didn't do much till the very end, where he heroically stays behind to buy you more time.
A secret door. That's the stuff. Probably leads right to the bastard. I'll keep these devils at bay. You see where that passage leads.
Which we spend on Annie, who's a bit vindictive from losing the competition.
What the fuck, Annie? No, I'm not alright. Again? Are you serious? Annie, fucks. Oh my god.
After settling down and making our way to the second floor, we end up finding Buffalo Soldier.
Hey, soldier, ready to do some fighting?
Who we take with us to the main office, where we don't find the governor, but a duel. I think it's supposed to be the governor's right-hand man, but to us, it's just business. That was cool, right? The last chapter of the game has us confront the governor, with Buffalo Soldier in hand, who really gets the short end of the stick as far as character contributions go, because not only do the enemies take themselves out.
Oh, good on him. Ready for the hell, brother.
But Buffalo Soldier is succinctly taken out in the most unceremonious way possible. But hey, at least we got a boost, which is all we could ask for. That's horrible. The fight against Griff isn't too tough, especially if you find some cover behind the roof tiles, which lets you get in some sneaky shots. But after dealing about 75% of his health, he initiates a duel.
I always regretted what happened back on your daddy's farm, Red. I should have been there to make sure you joined him.
And equipped with the Scorpion revolver, well, he's no joke. He pulls that shit out before you're even allowed to react, which will see you restarting this mission a lot. But if you beat him in the draw, well, he's as good as dead. In the end, only Annie and the soldier make it out alive, with Jack nowhere to be seen.
Jack?
What?
And with the sheriff unwilling to arrest us, he instead offers a prize money for us to walk away.
Well, I'd hate to see you hang after all you've done. 5,000 in gold sound like a fair bounty?
Knowing that's not what we're after, we pick up our paw's revolver, leaving them with the ultimate Western finisher.
Give it to them. It never was about the money.
That might be the end of the story, but it's not the end of the game. Because Red Dead Revolver is filled to the brim with extra little goodies that add to its longevity. Starting off with Red Dead's version of New Game Plus. We have bounties. Each mission is now replayable with one new objective serving as our bounty. This ranges from clearing out the chapter only using headshots to killing all the townsfolk in the Kelly mission within a minute. Turns out it's a lot harder when you're trying to do it on purpose. But once you do complete your bounty goal, you're rewarded with a cheat code. In this case, we got Infinite Deadeye. So yeah, they're definitely worth completing. But if you're feeling studious, there's a journal filled with all of the Red Dead lore your little heart can handle. And lastly, we have the multiplayer, which the game refers to as a showdown mode, and it's quite extensive for the time. For some reason, it reminds me a lot of the GoldenEye multiplayer, even though it's not at all first person. But I digress. There are over 40 characters you can unlock and play as, all with special abilities, which you didn't get to see in the campaign. You can choose between 3 different game types on 14 different maps. with bounties being your typical deathmatch, Sundown being an objective-based game, and High Noon being a dueling tournament. But the best thing about it is that even without friends, the game allows you to play with bots, which makes multiplayer single-player friendly. The Dead. That was Red Dead Revolver, an arcade western born from and killed by Capcom, but ultimately given a second chance by ROCKSTAR. Playing this in 2023 just confirms what I thought back then. This game is special. It looks and plays like nothing else at the time, making for more than a memorable experience. Its mixed and troubled development ultimately resulted in a standout, super stylized western game that could only work during the 2000s. It's silly and dark, but it works. And a big part of it has to do with being released under the ROCKSTAR brand, which definitely softened the blow from the more over-the-top aspects of the game, especially for players who are used to those more exaggerated antics from the GTA franchise. But the more light-hearted designs that were carried over from Capcom's time brought a certain charm to the game that made it stand out from GTA. I always found the more exaggerated and bombastic aspects of the game to be what made this wacky Wild West adventure so damn fun. The vignette style of storytelling really kept things interesting and engaging, especially in the second act that had the main plot taking a back seat, as the game utilizes its arcade elements to take you on a western ride through its many settings and cliches. And I know I haven't really talked about the game's flaws, but for everything the game did wrong, it did 20 other things right. So yeah, Red might have been born out of a need to make sense of a mistranslated title, but the Dead Revolvers were ultimately the friends and memories we made along the way.
Did you find what you were looking for, stranger?
I reckon I did.
But with that, thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. What was your favorite mission / favorite part of the game? Let me know down in the comments. Mine was definitely Jack versus the Circus Freaks, which I don't think I could say that anymore. Let me know what game I should do next. I'm thinking a little Jaws Unleashed, which reminds me of your mom. But with that, stay poochy, and I'll catch you on the next one.